Please stop it. This is not acceptable. Hello, what's wrong? I'd only give you a slight touch. I heard a woman scream out of nowhere as I was moving along the hallway of our client's business. I hurried over to the commotion and discovered a small woman in a small break room, cornered by a male. "What are you doing in hell?" I said. This is obviously not to her liking, and I went inside. The man, who was probably a company employee, sneered at my work uniform as he looked me up and down. "And you're who? The devil? A subcontractor? Outsider? Mind your own business." Whether or not I'm an outsider is irrelevant. She feels uneasy. "Get out of there." He exclaimed. "Ha! A lowly subcontractor like you acting all high and mighty." He threw the coffee he was holding in my face. My bright gray work uniform had dark brown blotches from the coffee drips. "Take a look at that. I washed your filthy work attire for you. For a ground-crawling subcontractor like you, a stain like that is ideal. You are a pitiful loser." I was shaking and about to cry. The woman quickly started using a cloth to wipe my face. The man was unaware at the time that this encounter would significantly change his destiny and signal the start of his journey into a living hell. "I'm Jake, and I work for a big manufacturer as the head of the development division. As a graduate of an industrial institution, I frequently go out into the field dressed in my work clothes. Even though the term department head typically conjures up images of someone sitting comfortably in an office giving commands to subordinates, it enables me to compile different viewpoints and have a better comprehension of the circumstances. I got into my work clothes and went to our factory today as normal. I was coming up with fresh concepts for product development while also getting input from the staff regarding any problems with the products. "Jake, the production process is lagging behind and part deliveries have been delayed lately. Can we take any action on this?" A worker who oversaw the production line came up to me. "Although I work in product development, not in the manufacturing department, could you talk to Ted, the section chief of the manufacturing department, about that?" But Ted is so laid back, he hardly ever contacts the head office. "But you go back to the head office every day, right? Could you just mention it to the person in charge of ordering?" "All right, I'll talk to them. To be honest, it's against the rules for someone from a different department to step in and interfere, ignoring a hierarchy within the company. Even my response just now wasn't exactly praiseworthy. There's a problem with the employee asking me, who isn't their direct supervisor, and with me not being able to refuse. Yes, I've always had trouble saying no when someone asks me for something. You could say I'm a good-natured person, but in my case, being a people-pleaser or indecisive is more accurate. In other words, I'm afraid of being disliked. When I returned to the head office, I received a call from the president's office asking me to come immediately. Feeling puzzled, I headed to the president's office, where Mr. Owens, the president, greeted me in high spirits. "Ah, I'm glad you came. Actually, about the new product you developed recently, it's getting quite a good reception." "Thank you. So I'm thinking of shutting down one of the production lines that's seeing a drop in output and shifting it to produce more of the new product. What do you think?" When Mr. Owens said this, I remembered what was mentioned to me at the factory today. Speaking of which, there was a complaint at the factory about delayed part deliveries. Those parts are also essential for the new product, so if we increase production, we'll need to secure more parts. "I see. In that case, we'll need to find new suppliers for the parts. I'll have someone from the manufacturing department contact you later, so please give them specific instructions on what we need." "Yes, understood." Mr. Owens hesitated a bit, as if dodging my reaction, before continuing, "We're considering promoting you soon. What do you think?" "A promotion?" "Yes. Your track record is outstanding. Since you joined the company, you've developed numerous products, all of which have become key items for us. With such achievements, a promotion seems well-deserved, don't you think? However, I'm more of a technical person, and I feel more suited to my current role. Besides, I lack the leadership skills to manage others effectively. That's exactly what concerns me, your lack of confidence and your indecisiveness. But still, we intend to promote you eventually. From now on, I want you to act with more confidence. The sudden talk of a promotion left me feeling unsettled. Even just being appointed as the head of the development department in my early 30s felt overwhelming, and the thought of taking on even more responsibility was daunting. One day, a representative from a company we planned to do business with came to introduce themselves as we were deciding on a new supplier for the new product. "Nice to meet you. I'm Emma. I'll be handling our meetings moving forward. It's a pleasure to work with you," she said, bowing her head politely. Despite being a sales representative, she seemed inexperienced and quite nervous. It was endearing in a way. As we met several times for meetings, I learned that she had recently transferred from a technical role to the sales department. Our shared technical background made it easy to talk, and she was attentive to the specifics of the parts. We discussed which made the conversations flow smoothly. Today, my explanations took longer than expected, and we ended up working well past business hours. So I decided to treat her to a meal as an apology. That said, I was too shy to invite her out for a meal, so I ordered takeout to the office, and we ate in the conference room. "I feel bad you're treating me to a meal when it was my fault for asking so many questions." No, I should be the one taking you out to a nice restaurant. But I know women usually don't like being asked out by a superior at work, so let's stick with takeout for now." "Oh, not at all. I really appreciate how clearly you explained everything to someone like me who's not great with words. And honestly, I'd love to go out for a meal outside of work too, if that's okay." Her unexpected comment took me by surprise, but I quickly composed myself, not wanting to get carried away. "That makes me happy, but during negotiations, rumors can start easily. For now, let's stick to takeout at the office. I'll find some really good delivery options for us." "Yes, thank you." Our professional relationship continued to go smoothly from there. The supply of parts for the new product was efficient, and the new production line was getting up and running. Sales were strong, and production was struggling to keep up, leading to discussions about building a new factory dedicated to the new product. "That's amazing. Your product is trending online." "Thanks. Because of that, we're even planning to build a new factory. If that happens, the number of parts we'll need from your company will increase several times over." "That's incredible." "Yeah, but at the same time, there's talk of my promotion as well." "Isn't that great news?" "Well, it's not as great for me. You see, I have a hard time saying no to people. I'm worried that if I get promoted, no one will want to follow me." I found myself confiding in her about my indecisive nature as our conversations had become more relaxed. "You know, I just can't say no when people ask me for things. I worry that even if I get promoted, no one will want to follow someone like me." "That's not true." "Sure, subordinates often have high expectations of their superiors, but I'm sure many people appreciate your kindness and humanity. I bet they'd all follow you." "Do you really think so?" As her words started to boost my confidence, I noticed she suddenly looked downcast. Even though I said all that, I'm the same way. It takes a lot of courage to say no, especially to a boss or a man. You worry they might retaliate later, you know. Even you feel that way. "Of course, but well, I'm going to work on saying no when I need to from now on." "Yeah, let's both work on that." Yes, we parted ways after our conversation, but I couldn't stop thinking about why I always been so indecisive. I started reflecting on an incident from my elementary school days, which I believe is the root of my hesitation. It happened when I was a young boy playing with my good friend Danny on the playground. "Hey, you little brats, get out of here, you're in the way." A group of older boys, probably middle schoolers, much bigger and mean-looking, approached us and demanded that we leave the playground. Back then, I was fearless, the type of kid who would say no without hesitation if something didn't sit right with me. So I stood my ground and responded firmly to the older boys. "No way. We were here first." "What did you say, you little runt? Talking back to us, huh? You want to get hurt?" Without warning, one of the middle schoolers hurled a baseball at us, aiming directly at me and Danny. I still remember how hard that baseball was, leaving a nasty bruise where it struck. Ouch! As I doubled over in pain, the boys laughed at my misery. The next moment, I heard a terrible scream from Danny on the other side. When I looked over, I saw that the same hard ball that had hit me earlier had now struck Danny squarely in the face. Danny collapsed, clutching his face in agony. "Let's get out of here." The middle schoolers panicked and ran off, leaving us behind. As a result, Danny ended up with a broken nose and fractured cheekbone, a serious injury. The middle schoolers who hurt us weren't caught immediately. Danny never blamed me, but our friendship became strained, and we gradually drifted apart. I was sure he had grown to dislike me. I deeply regretted standing up to those boys, which led to Danny getting hurt. I kept thinking that if I had just quietly left the playground, Danny wouldn't have been injured. From that moment on, I began avoiding conflict, becoming someone who couldn't say no. So that's it. I've been running away from challenges ever since then. Although I've grown into an adult, physically and emotionally, I'm still that scared little boy. I realize that I've been afraid of confrontation and rejection all this time. I can't keep living like this. I made up my mind to change myself and went to see Mr. Owens. Then I informed him that I would accept the promotion he had offered. A short time later, it was decided in a company meeting that we would build a new factory dedicated to the production of the new product. As a result, we placed a massive order with Emma's company for specialized parts and factory equipment, totaling $100 million. While I was at the factory discussing details, Mr. Owens arrived with Mr. Smith, the president of one of our key partners. "Let me introduce you. This is Jake, who will be leading the new project." Mr. Owens introduced me to Mr. Smith. "Ah, so this is the man behind your company's latest innovations." "Yes, that's right. He's still young, but he's got a bright future ahead of him. He's the one who's going to lead our company." Mr. Owens' words made me pause, taken aback by his high praise. "So, you're the one everyone's been talking about. If Mr. Owens says so, I'm sure you're the right person for the job," Mr. Smith said warmly. "I'm putting him in charge of everything related to the new project. Oh, by the way, Jake, could you go over to our partner's office and review the contract documents?" "Me? Right now?" I was still in my work clothes as the meeting at the factory wasn't finished, but Mr. Smith and the others didn't seem to mind. "Sure, I'll accompany you." I got into the car and headed to the partner's office. As we arrived and were being shown to the conference room, someone approached Mr. Smith with what seemed to be an urgent matter. Mr. Smith asked me to proceed to the conference room with his secretary, who would be waiting up ahead. "Of course, I don't mind. I'll wait in the room ahead," I replied, starting down the corridor. But just as I was about to reach the end, I heard Emma's voice coming from somewhere nearby. "Stop it, please. This is inappropriate." "Huh, what's the big deal? I'm just asking you to have some tea with me." "Please, John, this is making me uncomfortable. We're still at work." "What? You're just a young, inexperienced newbie. What are you resisting for? Last time you made me stay with you for hours. I can't keep doing this." "What did you say? Spending hours with you isn't part of my job. This is wrong." Immediately, I rushed toward the voice and found myself at the break room, where Emma was being cornered by a man in a cramped space. The man she called John was gripping her arm, his face filled with anger. I quickly stepped between them. "What do you think you're doing? Can't you see she's uncomfortable?" The man looked me up and down, sneering at my work uniform. "And who the hell are you? Did some subcontractor sneak in here?" "That doesn't matter. Let go of her and apologize right now." "Huh, What are you babbling about? This isn't any of your business. Whether I'm an outsider or not isn't the issue. Listen to this guy acting all high and mighty. You're just a lowly subcontractor. In the workplace, there's no higher or lower. And for your information, I'm here on business with Mr. Smith. What? You're here for Mr. Smith? Don't make me laugh. The man then threw the coffee he was holding right into my face. Fortunately, it wasn't too hot, but the coffee dripped down, staining my light gray work uniform with dark brown splotches. Look at that. Your dirty work clothes are all nicely decorated now. Perfect for someone like you who crawls around in the dirt. You pathetic loser, he sneered. Jake, are you okay? John, this is awful. Emma, who had been trembling with teary eyes, hurriedly started wiping my face with a handkerchief. As I looked at the man laughing in front of me, a vivid memory from the past flashed before my eyes. The sneering smile, the mocking tone, everything about him was eerily familiar. And that name, John, I was sure I had heard it before. Could you be the same John from back then? Yes, the man standing before me was the same John who had thrown that baseball at me and Danny all those years ago. I recalled the pain from the ball hitting me and the image of Danny writhing on the ground. He was like this back then, too, tormenting those he perceived as weak, laughing joyfully as he did. Unforgivable. A surge of anger welled up inside me, turning my vision red. At that moment, Mr. Smith came running up behind me, clearly alarmed by the commotion. What on earth is going on here? Mr. Smith, nothing to worry about. I was just teaching this outsider a lesson for sneaking into the company. I'll call security to have him removed shortly, John said with a smug grin. But Mr. Smith, looking genuinely flustered, immediately started apologizing to me. Jake, I'm so sorry. It seems John has caused some trouble. Yes, he was harassing her, and when I stepped in to stop him, he threw coffee in my face, as you can see. I pointed to my coffee-stained uniform. Mr. Smith turned pale and apologized profusely. I'm terribly sorry. John, what on earth have you done? What? Why are you apologizing to this guy, Mr. Smith? I found myself, beyond anger, feeling more exasperated with the man who still hadn't grasped the gravity of the situation. Mr. Smith, I've appreciated the business relationship we've had, but from now on, we'll be terminating all dealings. I cannot conduct a $100 million deal with a company that employs someone who can't even follow basic social rules. What? $100 million? What kind of joke is that? Are you kidding me? Even as the man continued his tirade, Emma raised her voice. John, this man is the CEO of Owens Corporation. Do you think you can cover a loss of $100 million all by yourself? As I watched Emma glare at the man, I thought to myself, but I'm the next CEO. In reality, my father is the current CEO of Owens Corporation. He's been urging me to take over the company as soon as possible. I had previously confided in Emma about being the son of the CEO, but due to my indecisiveness and reluctance to make decisions, I had been avoiding the heavy responsibility of being Owens's heir by working in a technical role. But I couldn't keep running away anymore. That man had been throwing around insults, calling me a subcontractor and a loser, but I happened to be the next CEO of Owens Corporation. After being humiliated by having coffee thrown on my company uniform, I see no reason to continue our contract. My father has entrusted me with this deal, and I've decided that our business relationship ends here. Please wait. Let's discuss this in the conference room. No, Mr. Smith, I can't stay any longer in these clothes. I'll be leaving now. Wait, please don't say that. I'll have a change of clothes prepared for you immediately. As Mr. Smith frantically tried to salvage the situation, John finally seemed to realize the gravity of the matter and hurriedly bowed his head to me. I am terribly sorry. I didn't know you were our business partner. Please forgive me. No, it's too late. Goodbye. I turned on my heel and left the building. As I walked out, I could hear Mr. Smith furiously yelling at John behind me. Outside, Emma came running after me, slightly out of breath. Jake. When I turned around, I saw her eyes brimming with tears as she tried her best to apologize. "Thank you so much. That man is my boss, and he's been making advances toward me constantly. No matter how many times I told him to stop, he wouldn't listen." She went on to explain that she had faced various unpleasant experiences in her previous role in product development, simply because she was a woman. When she brought up the issue of better working conditions to Thomas, the section chief, she was called insolent and subsequently transferred to another department. In this day and age, this kind of thing shouldn't happen, but when people reported it to their superiors, they were threatened with bad performance reviews. So everyone just kept quiet. After our conversation, I decided to start saying no to things I didn't like. But well, you saw how that turned out. I see. Yes, but I'm really glad you helped me today. From now on, I'm going to muster the courage to speak up to higher-ups, even if it's just a little at a time. I'm going to work toward making my dream come true. Your dream? When I asked her about her dream, she shyly shared her thoughts. It's a bit embarrassing to admit, but my company is a difficult place for women to work. But I really love the products we make, so I don't want to quit. I want to create a better working environment for women and increase the number of female employees. I see. That's amazing. As I listened to her, an idea crossed my mind. Would you let me help you achieve that dream? She was surprised, but I explained my idea to her. After hearing it, she nodded enthusiastically and gave me a beaming smile. The next day, Mr. Smith and John showed up at my company. I had already informed my father, Mr. Owens, about the incident with John, and he had assured me that I had full authority over the matter. So what brings a company that insulted my son here today? When my father addressed them, Mr. Smith bowed so low that his head almost touched the floor. "I deeply apologize for what happened yesterday. No amount of apology could suffice, but I've brought John here to offer his personal apology as well." "My deepest apologies," John muttered after Mr. Smith. He'd also offered an apology, but it was clear he didn't genuinely mean it. "He has reflected deeply on his actions, and we hope you'll reconsider the contract," Mr. Smith added. In response, I said to Mr. Smith, "Since you've come all this way, I'm willing to reconsider on one condition." "Yes, anything you ask." "First, there are allegations that John has harassed multiple female employees. I want these claims thoroughly investigated, and appropriate disciplinary action must be taken. Secondly, I want your company to commit to creating a work environment that is more supportive of women." Upon hearing this, John, unable to keep silent, suddenly spoke up. "Excuse me, but isn't that an unfounded accusation?" "No, it's not. Just from what happened in the break room yesterday, I've heard that you've been harassing female employees for quite some time." "That's just her making things up. It's just the jealousy of a woman who can't get attention." "Don't take her seriously," he scoffed. "She's not the only one making complaints against you. You've been accused of claiming women are incompetent, forcing them to clean toilets, locking them in storage rooms, and denying them overtime pay. There are even cases of you unjustly transferring women to distant locations. The list goes on. What? And you believe these women? What's wrong with telling incompetent people they're incompetent? You have no proof that I harassed anyone, so stop with the nonsense." "Oh, but I do have proof." I placed a stack of complaint letters from the women on the table. "Here are the written testimonies from those women detailing the unjust treatment they received from you. We've also reviewed the security camera footage in the office, which clearly shows your actions." John's face briefly contorted with fear, but he still refused to admit his guilt. "Even if there's footage, it's probably just when they were coming on to me. And those letters, you must have paid them to make this stuff up." "Oh, is that what you think?" I decided to bring up another point to John, who was still stubbornly denying everything. By the way, didn't you have a run-in with the police a while back for assault? What? How do you know about that? When you were in middle school, you threw a hard ball at a kid playing in the park and caused a serious injury. Do you remember that? John seemed to recall something but tried to hide it. I don't know what you're talking about. You have no proof that I did anything wrong. If you do, show it right now. As John arrogantly demanded evidence, I smiled calmly and spoke. Then, from behind the partition in the room, a man stepped out. Well, long time no see. Though the last time I saw you, it was through the glass at the police station. So I'm sure you don't remember me. No way, yes, I'm Danny, the kid you hit with a hard ball, causing a serious injury. That's impossible. John jumped up from his chair, panic written all over his face. It's not a lie. Look, here's a copy of the indictment and the incident report from back then. We also have footage from a nearby security camera. Oh, and you remember skipping out on the damages you were supposed to pay. You ran off without paying, didn't you? Did you know when you evade paying damages, the statute of limitations is extended, so you're still not off the hook? As Danny glared at him, John began to sweat profusely. We've also gathered testimonies from your old school friends about all the other bad things you've done. What do you think will happen if we take this to the police? No, this can't be happening. John was visibly shaken. Fortunately, Danny had no lasting physical effects from his injury, though he mentioned that the old wounds still ached occasionally. I couldn't forgive John for what he did, so I mustered the courage to reach out to Danny. He expressed a desire to be involved, so I arranged for him to be here today. Emma had also been instrumental in gathering the complaint letters from the women. Over 50 letters were collected, showing just how much John had been getting away with. The fact that these women managed to write and deliver the letters of accusation in just one night showed how deeply they resented him. In a way, it was terrifying, and I felt a sudden chill down my spine. John was subsequently fired from the company. I'd also heard that several women had pressed charges, prompting a police investigation into the company. A new department dedicated to improving corporate compliance was established, and Emma was appointed as its head. She is now working tirelessly to create a better environment for women. Seeing her dedication, I found myself admiring her even more, and I knew I wanted to continue supporting her in any way I could. Afterward, Danny and I had a long conversation for the first time in years. Sorry for contacting you out of the blue, and thanks for your help today. I really appreciate it. No worries, I had a grudge against that guy too, so it worked out. Glad to hear that. We hadn't spoken much since the incident with John, but before that, we were as close as brothers, always hanging out together. Danny looked at me with a nostalgic smile before suddenly bowing his head. I've been meaning to apologize to you. What? It should be me apologizing to you. If I hadn't stood up to him, you wouldn't have been hurt. No, I was going to fight back too, but he threw that hard ball at me before I could. So, in a way, it was just bad luck that I got hurt. So we both just mistakenly thought we were to blame. Yeah, it looks like it. Danny transferred overseas when he entered middle school due to his parents' circumstances, and we lost touch after that. But he says he's been worried about me all this time. I actually started a company in the U.S. and made it pretty big. Now I've opened a branch in Japan, and I'm running it as the CEO here. When did you become so successful? That's amazing. What are you talking about? You're the future CEO yourself. I've heard you've been developing new products left and right. That's embarrassing. After reconnecting through this incident, we began keeping in touch again, just like old times, meeting up whenever we had the chance. Danny also offered to give me some rather strict personal coaching on how to say no, knowing how much I struggled with it. No, Jake, you need to be firm and say no, even for something like this. Well, I'm not saying you have to be as blunt as an American, but your responses are way too vague. After you say no, explain why. It's that simple. If they still can't agree with you or end up disliking you, then that's the extent of the relationship. You don't need to please everyone. While considering others' feelings is a valued trait in Japan, overdoing it can stifle your individuality. What do you want to do? Who do you want to be as the CEO? It's your job to bring that forward and make adjustments to achieve it. Yeah, you're right. Thanks, Danny. No problem. Leave it to me. It felt like we were back to how we used to be. Although I guess our roles had kind of reversed now, but this dynamic isn't so bad. Eventually, I did become the CEO, and I'm living a happy life with Emma as my partner. Thanks to Danny's guidance, I've become much better at clearly saying yes or no in business. Still, the one person I just can't say no to is my wife, and that's a bit of a challenge. People often avoid saying no to prevent hurting others. We watch others' reactions, fear being disliked, and end up giving vague answers or agreeing to things we don't want, only to regret it later. But for the sake of protecting those who are important to me, I've decided to become the kind of person who can say no when something is wrong. I want to build relationships where we can truly understand and respect each other. That's the kind of person I strive to be.